就和对标上的凤凰一样，浴火重生承载着我们舰队时的愿望。这团火焰要继续燃烧下去。
我们不会为遗憾找借口，不管走到哪一步，那就是自己的实力体现。这回我相信苏宁可以一飞冲天。
几个月前，谁能想到我们会站在这里？几天之后，谁又知道我们将走得多远？
如果我们能杀出重围，请不要诧异，因为那不是奇迹，而是实力。
这一次的征程比过去都更加艰难，如果能够突出重围，我们必定将迎来蜕变。
距离这一年的完美结局只剩下最后的2个月了。这个秋天，金色的雨要让你们再次看到。
相比春天的 RW， 我们又发生了一次蜕变。这个夏天不进决赛就等于失败。
1整年的付出浓缩在这一刻，宪政之治有死无生。
Hello and welcome to the summer playoffs. We are chiming in to Beijing once again in the RNG arena, this time for a semi-final. That's right, we're all the way into semi-finals in the LPL playoffs. Got to go fast and furious since there's been a fast couple weeks of play into week 11. We had Asian games, now we have the players itself, and now we actually have the teams getting into their final seedings, moving into the world stretch. You can see Rogue Warriors moving on into the venue. They'll be taking on RNG today, and it will be an uphill struggle for them. RNG have looked exceptionally strong, and Rogue Warriors, well, they have a long way to go. This is the end of the Revenge Tour. Revenge Tour Season 1 was in spring, Season 2 was in summer, and now this is the grand finale. Alongside me, I've got Clement. How are you doing today, Clement?
I'm definitely super pumped. This is going to be the first time we see 2 of the top 4 teams that attended Rift Rivals go head-to-head in the playoffs.
Yes, indeed. It will be super fun to watch this one because we have Super Carry Doinby on the screen behind us as well. And let's just get right into this one. Let's take a look at the bracket because the hot news, the breaking news that you guys may have not seen. If you're a live viewer, you haven't caught up on the VODs and you're watching the LCK finals yesterday, which I don't blame you, KT versus Griffin. I'm not going to spoil the results since it's only a day afterwards, but if you're watching that series, then you're going to have to take a look at this bracket because, yes, on the bottom side right here, what's that? EDG 1 and 3 versus JD, who advanced to the semi-finals, Clement.
And it definitely feels like an end of an era because EDG, they've never finished below 4th place. This is going to be the first time that we're not going to see them actually go into a summer finals. So, you know, a lot of different things have changed, and we should really talk about what this means for the LPL in general. I feel like if you're going forward, you have to have a strong top side, and that's what EDG lacks. You look at the rest of the teams, Zoom is stepping up, Holder is there for Rogue Warriors, Let Me is playing Split Pushers and Asian Cups. So really, EDG not keeping up with the times.
Yeah, JD stepping up, Zoom stepping up, or is he just already at the top? That's a question as he moves on to semi-finals versus Invictus Gaming. Today's matchup, though, will be Rogue Warriors versus RNG. And to finish that one off, we can see RNG, just for continuity, they're walking into their own venue. This is their home arena, so hopefully they should feel pretty good moving into today. Of course, all of the semi-finals, in fact, all of the playoffs up until finals will be hosted in Beijing.
And you can see a lot of them are not even carrying their backpacks because this is home court for RNG. They definitely have the advantage in the fan base, in the familiarity with the stadiums and so forth. But about this matchup, I actually want to point out, Rogue Warriors do have the head-to-head against RNG 2-1. One big caveat, however, they haven't won the series in a BO3 when it was Uzi starting. And we know how much of a difference that could make in the TOP versus RNG series.
Yeah, and spoiler, Uzi is not going to be starting in this set. So even though they saw EDG, their long arch nemesis, drop yesterday, just like, it's fine, we're going to be okay against Rogue Warriors here. But Rogue Warriors, they're a team with a lot of strengths of their own. And I know, Clement, you're going to take me through exactly why RW are strong.
Yeah, Rogue Warriors had the best record in the Western Conference. One big thing that immediately jumps out is their control over objectives. Flawless has been, quote-unquote, flawless in this regard, carrying #1 in Dragon and both Baron plays. And this really does flow into their entire style. They are very teamfight focused. They could lose to you early in the laning phase, but when it comes to the 20-minute mark, they're there back again into second place, only behind Invictus Gaming. And the way they do their teamfights, we call them the freight train. They're great at champions that run at you. The Kled has to be the standout. After Rift Rivals, everyone has been banning this champion, but they also have more tools to follow it up. The Rakan, the Nocturne, especially the Mundo, 4Mouse have been their staple picks.
Yeah, there's only one team in modern LPL that you're allowed to call the Chinese aggression team, and this is it right here. RW are relentless in their aggression. They run at you, as you said, the freight chain. You look towards those big picks, usually being spearheaded by Doinby in the mid lane with these Kled picks.
Yeah, and this is just such a common sight for their team. A lot of the times they set up around the objectives or around the turrets, and they just run full steam at you. What really catches people off guard is the speed at which Rogue Warriors can collapse on a single point and the aggression that they're willing to push forward, even between multiple turrets, and just they are the comeback team. They will lose early, but once it gets into those big team fights, if you give them the composition, if you give them the tools, they're always very confident that they can claw their way back into the game.
Well, a lot of teams have fallen prey to the RW style, which is just like, it's all right, we'll give it the early game, and then we just hit you real hard with a haymaker in the mid game. Towards the Baron play specifically, we see so many times a setup into Baron, they take Baron, the game ends. But we're against RNG right here. And RNG are a team who are exceptionally strong in the laning phase in the early game, especially when they have Uzi on the roster. Not going to be the case in game 1, but RNG could be a team who will shut them down. And stylistically, between these two teams, you could say that RNG actually has the advantage here.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. It's an uphill battle for Rogue Warriors because though they may be great at teamfight, RNG are the masters of setting up team fights. They can come in at so many angles and really ambush you. So I do expect this to be a very heavy 5v5 type of team fight. Yeah. Even if RNG don't want to opt into it, Rogue Warriors will be the one pushing the pace and looking for those big 5v5s.
Yeah, RW definitely bring the fight to their opponents, and they will bring it to RNG. So what I want to see in this matchup is whether RNG can actually get those setups and have them watertight to a point where RW can't just come in with their sucker punch, which has been happening all split, in fact, all year. And it's just like a team can set up all they want, but during that time, Rogue Warriors will just run at you. And that's been the source of a lot of their comeback wins, is they'll be at their base, they'll be sat behind their inhibitors, and Doin will just flank from a side. And it's just like, well, I guess we just win the game now. And that just happens too many times. They cannot be allowed, moving into a semi-final in the world split, to be allowed to continue to do this.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there is an early and late game type of balance between these two teams, the 1-3-1 style and the confidence in Uzi to hyper carry in the later game does go later for RNG, but for Rogue Warriors, I feel like they need to look for a mid-game win with their type of style. Sure, they have another great ADC in SMLZ, the true hyper carry of the LPL, but he's going up against Uzi, and to be honest, I don't feel like SMLZ has been having such a great time, especially on the Kai'Sa. What's more surprising, he only has 33 win percent on the Kai'Sa. You know, he was known as the big Kog'Maw, as a late game carry, but not really this split. This split, he's been more about creativity. He's gone with the Misfortune, the Dark Harvest Misfortune, and the Jhin a lot of the time.
That's fair. Look at the old pro list. That definitely speaks towards that tail. Now, Letme's going to be in the top lane with MLXG in the jungle, Xiaohu in the mid lane, Abel in AD carry, and Ming down in support.
And for Rogue Warriors, we're going to have Mouse, Flawless, Doinby, SMLZ, and Kahlua. Now, recently, Rogue Warriors have been running with a second unit, going with the top laner with Holder and their jungler of Kiwi. Not this time around. They're going back to what's classic and putting the more veteran jungler in the helm.
That was only the last couple weeks of play when pretty much everything was already solidified for Rogue Warriors. And you do see this out of a lot of LPL teams. You know, everything's locked down. Get your sub-roster some time on the field. But what was surprising was in the top side, Holder was an absolute monster. This guy was absolutely insane in the top lane. But there's a caveat to that. If you want to run Holder in the top side, you've also got to sub out Flawless because of the import rule. Now, you're looking at this and it's just like, well, then you would just never do it, right? Like, you want Flawless, you want Mouse, you want this as a unit. But the interesting thing here is Holder is so damn good that you could probably give up Flawless and the top lane of Mouse just to have this guy play.
Holder is probably the only assassin top laner that you'll ever see. He's great on Akali, he's great on Aurelia, and he actually has the most kills per game in the LPL.
Yep.
And that was just off a 9-game stretch of performance. So if you look at the general trends of the top LPL teams moving more top heavy, looking to get their carries in that lane, that I think Holder is a great opportunity for that. And I do think that we'll see him come off of the roster if the top lane goes badly for Mouse.
I would be frankly shocked if we didn't see Holder at some point in this series, because I don't expect this to be a 3-0 either way to RNG or Rogue Warriors. And at that point, you probably want to see if there's something else you can bring into the top side. And I think that if you want a tank, and when I say tank, I mean Mundo, you bring in Mouse. If you want anything else, then you'll bring in Holder. But so far, 19 games over the split of Mundo. Second highest was 3 games on his next highest champion. 19 games on Mundo. This guy is literally Mundo at this point.
And that's a really big question for Mouse. Does he actually have the champion pool to compete right now? Because we're looking at things like the Aatrox, which I don't think Mouse has shown a great record of, and also things like the Urgot, possibly the Akali. There's a lot of new picks that he needs to move in, and Mouse really hasn't been known for a big, expansive champion pool. He's going against Letme, but Letme has a lot of new tools. In Asian games, we've really seen a new face. RNG has been trying to get Letme to carry his lane, to play through that position, and it does start with split-pushing picks like the Akali and the Kennen. And I think that's a very solid edge that RNG does have over Rogue Warriors, unless they show something new.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right, with Letme in the top side, because who was it? Was it AJ who was saying that he's very good internationally? He's like the international top lane you send out, but domestically you look towards players like Zoom. You know, Zoom, Xiao Ao even in the top side if you want domestic power. So Letme right here will have to show that he's able to do that in his lane. That being said, we're essentially running the B roster here for RNG coming into game 1, and this was surprising to me, like seeing that they would do this against TOP. Yeah, makes sense, you're in the quarterfinals, but heading into a semi-final right here against Rogue Warriors, the most dominant team in the Western Conference.
The stakes are just so high for RNG. I'm actually surprised at their confidence as well, because if they win here, they're guaranteed to go to Worlds. They were the champions in Spring Finals, and right now, if they get over Rogue Warriors, they would be guaranteed second, and they would go on points alone. So, you know, really, I think RNG probably have the same idea we do, that this will be an uphill battle for Rogue Warriors. And I think Rogue Warriors have to come out and surprise them, because the big advantage for Rogue Warriors is that they didn't have to go to Asian games. They play a lot of champions in their mid lane from Joinby and from SMLZ. 16 champions and 17 champions respectively. That's a lot of combinations that they could throw at you, and they really need something special to upset the status quo.
They hit hard and they hit fast. We're going to get into the champion side. RNG are going to take a blue side into game 1 of this best of 5. You can see the record in regular season, the exact same, 14 wins to 5 losses from both teams. Bans here from RNG, Gangplank, Braum and Akali here, and Rogue Warriors taking away the Camille and the Xinjiao.
So we can see Rogue Warriors definitely focusing on the early jungling from MLXG. I agree with this actually, because I think MLXG is a very different player when he's on something like a Sejuani and compared to something like a Lee Sin. When he's super aggressive, he will use that dueling advantage and try to push you out of his lanes. Then we're going to see RNG go for the Aatrox. Now, this is one of the few blind picks that they will give towards Letme. Most of the times that we've been seeing in the playoffs so far, they actually let Letme counterpick for his top lane.
Yeah, the fact that we're seeing more and more Aatrox get through nowadays is definitely a bit of a 50-50. We see a lot of Aatroxes actually just straight pop off still, even after the nerfs, like 2 patches in a row for him. First pick here for RNG. Rogue Warriors is going to confirm the Lovers duo straight up.
And we're going to have to see what RNG has to answer for this. They could go for the Kaisa, which is the big pick for RNG in their late game carry type of style, but against this lane, they're going to be giving up a lot of priority. Actually, the Kaisa has not been doing so hot in the playoffs so far, only a 1/3 win rate, and it has been because that in a fighting region that is so puts so much emphasis on the 15 minutes, not having that priority from bot lane can hurt you a lot.
Yeah, maybe just straight up losing that bottom. We've seen that a couple times as well, 2 versus 2 wins. RNG locking down the Alice though early here for Ming. I do like to see that at least get something down in the bottom lane up against this Rakan. Rise into the mid lane from RNG. Now, Rogue Warriors will get themselves the Talia and look to ban away the Lee Sin.
This feels like MLXG is actually getting the score treatment where he got 5 bans targeted his way.
Yeah.
But traditionally, MLXG has been known for having a small champion pool, so they're trying to force him on either the Kindred or the Nocturne at this point. 2 champions that, you know, he could still go towards, but I think they probably take away more early game options. That's what it looks like they're trying to do from Rogue Warriors.
Interesting stuff, taking away the Urgot. Haven't seen it so far from Mouse. We were just talking about this Urgot picked up so far by 4 unique top laners. Now, Olaf towards the jungle, going to be another MLXG ban. So yeah, he is indeed getting the score treatment.
At RNG, they do have their good 1-3-1 tools as well. Rise is the #1 priority for them. It does allow them to get engages they otherwise couldn't find. The Realm Orb goes past vision. So even if they lose out on the early game, they could still find those great collapses later on.
Yeah, and Galio will be the final ban there towards Doinby. So there's still a lot open for Doinby. Typically we get this far in picks and bans, and you've taken away the Kled, the Aatrox, all of the mid lane picks. But Doinby sat here and it's just like, I could pick anything I want. I could pick up the Kled right now, and in fact, he'll do so.
And he's just standing behind his product. Rogue Warriors are going for their freight train strategy. There's 2 champions on this roster right now that they have a 100% win rate on, the Rakan and the Kled. They're going to find any engages possible, and MLXG is not really going to be able to slow down the early game because he's simply been banned out.
They just need a Nocturne now, and they'll have the full roster of unbeaten champions here from Rogue Warriors. Zach's going to read the response, though, from MLXG. And we're now looking for an AD carry from RNG, all the way down at the end here for Abel. Did see him just a couple of days ago. Abel, mechanics are always going to be on point, but it's just that X factor that you get from Uzi, which is the thing at the end of the day. But it's going to be Kaiser anyway, so we're going to see that on the bottom side, along with the Alistair. And Rogue Warriors, what are they going to pick? So if they want to put Mouse on Mundo duty, they could, and usually that's what they do, but they are currently hovering the on, and they will lock it in.
So Rogue Warriors, they basically got everything they wanted out of the draft, and RNG, like their true colors, are going for the late game. They're going for the 1-3-1, but I'm very worried about the early portions of the map for them, because if you look at the bot lane, not exactly a great matchup. If you look at the mid lane, actually, Doinby does have a lot of kill threat coupled up with the Talia as well. So RNG, in the early game, I expect a lot of defensive play. They're going to have to hold tight.
Yeah, you'd have to expect so. Xiaohu also gets his chance at the Aatrox. You know, you have to expect that a lot of... Well, they're swapping up now. You have to expect a lot of these solo laners have experience on the Aatrox. It's just been essentially permabanned up until the new patch. Like, up until 0.16, we've just not really seen any Aatrox. And the times that we have, he's just straight stomped the matchup and reminded people why you banned the Aatrox. So now that we're seeing it, it's a little bit more 50-50, but generally still in the Aatrox's favor.
Yep, the Aatrox is definitely going to be going top. It's not a very good matchup for him against the Kled, actually.
Yeah,
because the Kled can double dash away and basically evade a lot of those knockups coming out.
Yeah, we won't really be able to take him out in that 1v1, so it makes sense to move him up to the top side. But it's still a Rise matchup into the mid lane, and I know you, Clement, you know, the Kled aficionado, and we've spoken at length about how this matchup works, but there are ways, even for Doinby here, like Doinby, no less, to be able to take on that matchup early.
Yeah, the great thing about Kled is that you can get harassed down on the meta, but once you get that Tiamat in the mid game, you can just forget about laning. This is what Moiryu did in his series against Suning Gaming. He basically forgoes the laning phase and just roams around, and we see this from Doinby quite a lot as well. He doesn't have the best early laning from the Kled, but that really doesn't matter. Once he goes towards the bot lane and you have Rakan coupled with him, it's so hard to keep your bot lane alive.
Yeah. I do like the fact that there was an early confirmation of the Alistair from RNG, otherwise that certainly would have been taken away. So there is something in the bottom side to combat this Rakan, but it's still this early game from RNG. You know, this is exactly what we highlighted in this matchup. RNG were expecting them to take precedence in the early game to try and shut out Rogue Warriors and then have those setups moving towards those team fights. Right here, it actually seems like Rogue Warriors can do whatever the heck they want early, mid-game, and late game.
Yeah, it is an uphill battle in terms of the compositions from RNG, but what we've seen from Rogue Warriors, their biggest weakness is that split push coming from the top lane. So let's see if that happens this game.
Well, styles versus compositions. Let's see which comes out on top as we get into game number 1 of our semi-finals here in the LPL. And pause.
Unfortunate right here because Rogue Warriors is already going in for a level 1 invade. I actually really like that idea, trying to force out MLXG from entering the bottom side, and they can put more pressure early game. Talia is a great champion for ganking that bot lane.
Now, do you think it's fair that RNG get 5 chance versus the normal 3? It is their home arena, so I respect it.
It's, you know, it's what the fans want. It's they represented at Asian Games. They represented China.
Gold
they won a gold medalist.
Yeah,
They deserve it. And if you don't know their chance is, who are we? We're RNG. What do we want? We want to win the championships. They've been doing that through the entire split. This is RNG's potential for their golden year, where they've won every single tournament, gone to the finals, and reversed Uzi's silver destiny from beforehand.
They're missing the third part, though. It's like, when do we want it? Preferably this year. You know? If they don't have that, then it could be far off into the future. This has already been the problem for, you know, Uzi.
Yeah.
It's because they never finished off the statement.
It would feel really bad if Uzi wins his champion in the ear of the boar. Like,
Yeah.
it would feel much better if it was ear of the dog and the entire way through.
That's my year, by the way, year of the boar. It's the first time that Clements actually said year of the boar. Usually he reminds me it's year of the pig, but it is year of the boar. Year of the dog this year for Uzi. His time to shine, won everything so far. And yeah, we've still got this invade going on from Rogue Warriors. Flawless should be able to take this one away. I'm not sure if well, they probably know now since SMLZ and Clue path right towards the bomb lane.
Yep, Rogue Warriors, RNG did have a Raptor ramp ward earlier on, so they did know the level 1 invade was coming in. But because of the jungler dueling difference, we see that MLXG is actually only starting on his own side of the jungle. It is a question if he is going to be able to equalize the vertical jungling, or if Flawless can look for a triple buff start.
Now, Doinby, one of our prolific Kled mids in the LPL, the original, the best. Doinby just knows how to make this pick work, make it work in the matchups, and make it work with the team as well. Gonna go with Presti attack into the mid lane. Lots of squishy targets actually on RNG for him to pick apart.
Yeah, definitely a better option there. If you're going into the top lane with tanks, Conqueror should be the better option there. But we're seeing the early lane priority coming out from RNG, and MLXG is pretty comfortable in going up and taking away Rogue Warriors red, probably. They should get the shove in mid lane with Xiaohu as well.
Flawless pathing towards the bottom side once again. Managed to pick up 2 buffs on his side. Back towards the enemy jungle. Might be able to snipe away Raptors. All look for that mid lane gank. Seems like Xiaohu's pushed up, but also playing towards top side because MLXG is there. So we'll just be the Raptors take now. Join me into mid lane, a little bit extra detail on his pickups. Of course, going Triumph, Coup de Grace, and Resolve secondary.
The only thing that's special here would be the Tenacity Legend coming out from him. Probably for the Rise matchup. Does like to harass with Rune Prison quite often.
Yeah, this is a little bit awkward for Doinby. This is the hard part's pre-6 for him. Top lane, Letme's actually getting the better of Ornn, to be expected. Aatrox, a very strong laner. See if he can climb underneath tower as well. Into the bottom lane though. Kahlua trying to get out of this one. Lockdown onto SMLZ as he kites back, and Abel is still putting out the damage. The Kefian Rain locks on. And RNG get a real nice trade in the bottom side.
That was a really good play from Ming. He gets the stun and the knock up underneath tower. So Kahlua forced to take a lot of damage. Ignite used for Ming just to force him out, and the heal equalized from SMLZ.
Yeah, Ming, one of the best, if not the best support in the league. He was first, I believe, on the all LPL list. Second in KDA in role, first in wards per minute.
Definitely the biggest thing I look for Ming is his playmaking ability. Uh-oh, but Abel steps up too far.
Well, speaking of playmaking, it's going to happen on Rogue Warrior side. Flash forwards there, double knockup coming in from the Alistar, and Kahlua low, trying to kite back, has to flash away from this SMLZ, close to having the plasma proc, but he's going to survive this trade.
Uncharacteristic mistake from SMLZ. Doesn't even get the range to land anything on Abel, and here comes MLXG.
Relentless aggression coming in from this bottom lane, about to be punished by MLXG. The knockup coming in clutch from Ming as well. Floors kiting into the bottom lane, but SMLZ is about to drop the flick backwards. MLXG flashes forwards for first blood.
And without a red buff, there's no way that... Oh, sorry, Flawless did have the red buff, but there's no way that he was able to chase forward with Ming blocking all of the damage right there. A bit of a mistake coming in from SMLZ, but this is actually what we've been seeing from him in the laning phase quite recently. He's actually been losing a ton of lanes and just straight up 2v2 outplay coming in from RNG.
And frankly, Rogue Warriors just tried way too hard to make that work. That was 3 small engages onto the bottom lane of RNG, and they were just like, there's no way a jungler could possibly path towards the bottom side after we stay past the river for a solid 2 minutes.
Yeah, they do have the aggressive side of the matchup, but definitely overreaching in that last trade right here. Great start from SMLZ. They get the battle dance and all of the damage onto him, but the flash was really questionable because you could see Ming, he lands 2 straight stuns right off the bat and is basically able to chase them away from the entire laning phase. SMLZ still wants to stay around for more.
They stay in.
I don't think that ward spotted MLXG. A bit of an unfortunate positioning for them. Just 2 pixels off to the bottom side.
Yeah, and the reaction was good, but in the end, it's a kill onto SMLZ. A lot of resources burnt on the bottom side. I respect the attempt there from Flawless, but it's still first blood going over to RNG. Uzi is just cracking up right now. I mean, I don't even need to take to the stage, apparently. We're in semi-finals versus Rogue Warriors, and bot lane's just kicking some ass.
Yeah, and you also have to point out that the jungle pressure being torn away from the solo lanes also hurts quite a bit. The top lane already falling behind 20 CS. Take a look at RNG's stats right here. If they get the FB, their win rate, First Blood, their win rate goes up to 70%. So definitely a good start for them.
Yeah, but the times they get First Blood, not very often. 48%, actually 10th in the league, which is definitely surprising. But this time, they managed to get First Blood. So we'll see if they can make that the win in game 1 here in this best of 5. Top lane, though, still hefty advantage over to Let Me. Did have a gank while that replay was happening. But it's up to about 3 waves now. Huge in the top side. Mid lane, a wave advantage. Bot lane, assist advantage. I mean, there's a small CS lead over to SMLZ. But overall, RNG is getting the better of Rogue Warriors in this early game.
Yep, but here is when Doinby does come online. He's already hit his level 6 and the Tiamat, so he should be able to shove in Rise a couple of times. And the number 1 place he does like to look for those kills on the charge would be the bot lane. There aren't a lot of summoners there, so it could be a great chance for Rogue Warriors to equalize.
And of course, a lot of the early game power, a lot of the early skirmishing power typically comes out from Doinby. It was surprising not to see too many bans thrown his way. You know, they took away the Rise. That's typically what Doinby does like to pick in early rotations. Otherwise, he does get the counter pick on red side. And then he exactly managed to just do that. Picks up the Kled. First dragon of the game goes over to Rogue Warriors. Still a laning phase, so going to be very nice for Rogue Warriors in their laning at the very least, but would like to get something back.
Definitely still looking for hard control onto the bot lane. We talk about the Silk Road towards the bot lane in the LPL, and that's the path behind the red buff for blue side. You can see it's already warded up. Double control wards for this path, so there's actually multiple ways that Doinby could find himself into the bot lane. All they need is enough room for Doinby to actually operate and leave the lane. They wanted to do it before Abel gets both of his summoners.
There's a chance right now, perhaps, Shaofu moving over to pick up his blue buff. Then moving back towards the mid lane. Actually, Doinby moving towards the top side here. There's actually a push coming out from Let Me. And Flawless is pathing towards the area, but there was a deep control ward, so Doinby will be stopped on that attempt.
Yep, a bit unfortunate right here. We do hear Frost talk about this a lot. When blue side goes for their blue buff, it's a massive opening to go for the bot lane dive. But unfortunately, Doinby not able to find that opening. He did have the chance, but cleared out his red side for Flawless instead.
Yep, took a lot about setup, and this is it from RNG. Stopping his plays before they really happen from Rogue Warriors. And the Rise matchup just means he's constantly been pushing up the mid lane until he goes back. Doinby's not going to find access into these side lanes, really. Bot lane, a lot of damage coming out from SMLZ, perhaps forcing out the ultimate here from Ming. Yeah, he's going to have to pop that one, so big ultimate down.
Pretty dangerous situation for Kahlua. The Ignite was still held on to him. If Ming found that stun, it would have been over for him. And this is a point where you start to feel the power of Xayah and Rakan as a laning duo start to wane a little bit. Rakan on 8.16 did have his HP nerfed quite heavily.
Yeah, they were pushing very hard to try and make that natural early advantage work, but kind of blew back in their face just a little bit from RNG. We're finding ourselves a bit of a more passive laning phase early game. I mean, really, we expect the Sparks to start flying around objectives around the mid game towards second Drang, perhaps even Herald itself. That's where we really see the most action happen, specifically between these two teams when you look at them stylistically.
We have to say, Rogue Warriors' composition is a lot about priority and initiative. If they're getting pushed in most of the time, they're going to have to give up towers to maybe find the perfect 5v5 that they're looking for. So, you know, this laning phase is not going very well for them, and RNG are quite happy to extend this phase where the map is relatively closed off.
They do have a lot of tools, Rogue Warriors, though, for an engage. So maybe playing on the back foot, they can't find it on the flank, but again, comes down to vision and setup from RNG. And bottom side, again, Ming's just stepping up. The ultimate bodyguard, no one can really get past him. Recalling on a ward as well, Flawless. Goes back to base.
And this could potentially open up a gank opportunity for MLXG at the very least.
Or for Ming to just instantly engage. He knows there isn't a jungler there. He actually plays down his Ignite very early, still doesn't have his ultimate. They still step forwards, and going to be good for now. RNG rather will take this opportunity to clear out vision in the bottom side river. Joby sees them though. FLICKR chasing after Bear, trapping the rope, lands. He's going to be put in room prison. Ooh. Jumps back.
Lua expends his flash for that. Doesn't really get anything. You could see the trade in the bot lane was actually a coordinated effort coming in from Ming. They had Ryze rotating towards the bot lane as well. Wasn't able to get any traction. We'll get Rogue Warriors to turn around and try to fight.
So what are we waiting for right now from RNG? Because they're pretty content to keep farming. It's a Kai'Sa, so you just want to wait until the mid game, until it's got a bunch of farmers are about to hit those 2 icy power spikes.
Oh, I think they're incredibly happy so far for RNG. The main thing I think they're doing really well is Xiaohu has been playing very calmly. He knows he has the teleport, so he's willing to let Doinby get the roams first.
Oh, here we go. There's the charge. It wasn't bot lane, it was mid lane. And it falls, unfortunately, short. And Xiaohu will see this happening from a mile away, literally straight down mid lane, and just walk it back and recall.
And Doinby's still level 9, so level 1 ultimate has a very long cooldown. Pretty much means that RNG is safe from charge plays for the next 3 minutes.
Yeah, nothing's really going to happen, and it just gets even better for RNG. We're going to clear out the wards on their side. There was some shallow vision going in there right there from Rogue Warriors, but yeah, if you're RNG, you don't really need to do anything. It's just like bot lane's going well, mid lane's going well, top lane's going well. In fact, top lane is continuing to get better for Let Me. He's now about 40 farm ahead of his opponent. No one's really visited the top lane. We had an early gank coming out from MLXG. Poked his head up there. Now he's looking towards the bottom side. Flash forwards, knock up onto the AD carry, put in the bounce house. That's a nice lockdown coming in from the Blade Caller, but here comes that Talia, locks everybody in right now. MLXG jumps out of that hot pot and Flawless looking to move forwards. There's the Ornhorn from long range, looking for the knock-up sidestep from Abel, but he's getting chunked down as he looks to retreat. MLXG, SMLZ with the kill, a second one to Flawless, and Rogue Warriors finally strike.
And great reaction from SMLZ. He dodged out on all the skills coming in from MLXG. Did not get the slingshot and didn't get the Q either. So SMLZ was pretty free to dish out damage. And Mouse, with the quick teleport and the long-range Ornhorn, they're going to be able to secure 2 kills and the tower.
Looking for first tower. There it is. I was going to be close there because Let Me was actually just hitting this tower all the way through that entire play. But Let Me will get the second tower in the push. Will be stopped from Rogue Warriors. So a little bit of tempo here over towards them, and the second dragon has also spawned just as they made that play. So what we were waiting for, all these tools to be used, but it actually wasn't coming out of Doinby, it was coming out of everybody else but Doinby. Here comes MLXG, not going to be taking this dragon under his watch, finds the stretching strike, in comes Ming. Over the wall, Flawless has to flash, charge away from Mouse. Now RNG looking towards this dragon themselves.
A lot expended just to secure that Ocean Drake. I'm not even sure it's particularly worth it, but they do force the enemy off. I felt like that was a good play coming out from RNG. I like the idea, but the execution was very far off. So 3 skills missed completely from MLXG's side, and you could see that SMLZ right here, he's able to dodge out on the impact coming in from the Zac. Doesn't get the Q, and then MLXG has to use his ultimate just to get away from the play. Now, this was actually a very good timing for the top side as well. You could see Aatrox in the top side. He was in a back rotation. He was trying to get something, his Black Cleaver, in base. So, was pretty slow on the teleport as well, and Rogue Warriors just outplayed that initial attempt from RNG.
There it is. That's what we talked about from Rogue Warriors. Takes a while to come in, but it's just instantaneous, you know? Like, when you look at a lot of other teams, it's like, all right, set up around this objective, all right, let's get ready for the fight. But from Rogue Warriors, it's like, someone just yells, we're going, and then everybody just teleports into the play. That's essentially how a lot of the engages happen from Rogue Warriors. More often than not, it works out for them.
Yeah, that was a real close shot, though, because if MLXG landed that, had a perfect CZ chain between the knock-up from Alistar, it should have been a kill.
Yeah,
should have been. Case, though.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Here comes Kled into the top side. He's locked onto Ming. He's going to hit him up. Instantly pops the ultimate, knocks him away, but right into his AD carry. Abel probably going to be a little bit tilted after one. He probably doesn't know who Ming's playing for anymore.
That was definitely a Mata-esque play coming in for Ming. Headbutting the Kled right in front of the AD carry. But the question here is, can RNG actually get a better trade out of this? There are 4 members into the top side, but no minions underneath this tower.
Oh, Mouse stops in his charge right there, pops the ultimate looking for the knockup. He's taking so much damage coming in from Let Me. He's dead even before MLXG arrives.
And unfortunately, he doesn't get the knockup from the second proc of the Ornhorn. Probably wouldn't have mattered anyway. But RNG should be able to equalize this tower at least.
Yeah, and a Herald on top of that. So actually, quite nice trade here from Rogue Warriors, unless RNG are able to pick up something themselves. Mid lane, Joinby doesn't really care about Ming. He's going to keep on hitting that tower.
He's actually tanking it. 3 tower shots, doesn't care.
No, all good. Here comes Shelly setting up for this one. Meanwhile, MLXG charging up with the Elastic Slingshot, but doesn't really want to jump into 4 players. She's going to get her first charge, and Rogue Warriors probably escort this one in at least for a second charge, then look to back away. There you go.
And that's kind of the danger with RNG playing a later game 1-3-1 composition. What they're most afraid of is these hard engages coming from Rogue Warriors. They could just pick a lane and all in onto it. Before RNG can get all of their lanes across river, then, you know, they really can't equalize in terms of the objectives. And that was a 3-for-1 trade into Rogue Warriors' favor.
And it's really like clockwork, you know, you look at Rogue Warriors and you can be confident you're never going to see a game where they fall behind early and it's like they're going to play a passive game from here on out and then slowly lose the game. I've never seen in the history of Rogue Warriors organization for them to ever have done that. They always go, they will go down fighting. I've seen a lot of losses from them that would be like a 25-minute loss because they proceed to keep throwing themselves at the opponent, and I respect that.
Oh, definitely. They're not dissuaded or discouraged about their early laning phase losses. We were talking about this in the pregame. Their topside in jungler statistically is actually the worst top and jungle duo in terms of gold. Like, they fall behind constantly. Their bot side, SMLZ, has not been having a great early laning phase, showing a lot of 2v2 deaths, but they always manage to come back somehow. And this is how. Like, I'm actually really surprised that RNG gave the majority of the tools over to Rogue Warriors.
Yeah.
This does really feel like testing the waters for RNG, seeing how far they can get away with the 1-3-1 just with their B unit.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, the somehow is initiative and it's team fights from Rogue Warriors, and RNG definitely pushing their luck in playoffs. I mean, this is such a rare thing to see from anybody, apart from RNG. It's like, we could just shift the B roster, and they're still just good in terms of star talent. You look across the board, every one of these players is mechanically godly in their respective role. And I think for the most part, RNG and Rogue Warriors, a lot about brute forcing. Like, if you give the moniker of brute force down to like any 2 teams, it's probably Rogue Warriors and RNG. They just think that they're able to outplay you in the situation. They'll go for a 50-50% play and be like, well, the extra 50% is made up by how good we are.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very common mentality I actually get from the Chinese players. But first of all, let's see if Flawless can escape.
Takes the full wall. Yeah, small changes on Taleo in this patch. No longer gives vision, so didn't know where he was going, but he did know he was going.
Yep, going back towards his own base. Should have been really safe right there. In the LPL, we talk about execution as part of the play. You know, in the LCS, a lot of times the coaching staff does come up, okay, this is the best play that you should strive for, and the execution is, even if the execution goes wrong, you should still have made that great play. But in the LPL, a lot of the idea behind it is, if you can make this bad play consistently work, there must be something good behind it.
Yeah, so just keep doing it.
Yeah, so they do take a lot more of mechanics into the equation.
I think that's an interesting thing when they go internationally, because we've seen it very recently, even at Asian Games. It's like, this play should not work right here. No other sane team would go for this play, and that's why it works most of the time. Because there's like, there's no way they would engage right here when we have all the vision set up, all the setup around this objective, and they just go anyway. And then it works, you know? It's because, like, when you surprise your opponent with that, you weren't expecting that situation even to arise. So do you even prepare for it? Mostly no.
My favorite Reddit comment in Asian games was MLXG saying, "You're not going to catch me for the 9th time in a row." And he comes out of nowhere, gets a great Dragon's Rage, and basically kicks LCK's bot lane duo to death.
Yeah.
So, you know, that a lot of times it is that type of a mentality. Is like, you continue to take high-risk plays, but sometimes they work.
They do. And again, these two teams are probably the most... I want to say guilty, but it's probably the opposite of that, right? If it works, then you're not guilty of anything. So Rogue Warriors, they'll keep going at you. Now looking towards our third dragon, another Ocean. It's a rainy day today.
So if we look at the item advantages right here, Abel is still looking for his second item, so I really don't think RNG can contest at this point.
No, I mean, 2 items already picked up by SMLZ himself. He's sitting pretty mid lane, about to hit second item. Of course, you only really complete the tier mat and then ignore it until like second or third item. Looks like it could be Titanic here actually from Doinby second.
What we're seeing is pretty interesting from Let Me. He's definitely more set onto the split pushing type of style. You can see his items would actually go into a death stance if he chose to. Of course, it could just be the Sterix Gauge.
You'd think Sterix.
Yeah, you'd think Sterix would be the most common build right here, just because of the team fight prowess.
For sure. Mouse looking towards more health right now. First item went for the Frozen Heart, so in that initial gank, essentially had no effect of health. He had a lot of armor, but no health, so just popped like a balloon, like a pinata, unfortunately, in the bottom plate, but now he's getting a little bit of extra health underneath him. And yeah, Rogue Warriors looking towards top side. In fact, they're all grouped up there. Jointly pushing forwards onto Xiaohu. On top side, essentially, that it looks like they're setting up onto this inner turret, and they're coming in with very fast rotation on a large minion wave.
Yeah, this is so dangerous because the entirety of Rogue Warriors could collapse on your composition in a second. Now, they're just setting up vision for the Baron Pit, and if RNG so far steps out towards the mid lane, I feel like Rogue Warriors could do a full engage.
I mean, this is what you were talking about before, Clement. When they have priority, when they have control over the map, it's so easy for them to go for an engage. 4 out of their 5 champions have a super good way of just moving front to back, looking for a flank, looking for an engage in a skirmish or a fight scenario. So it's super risky. RNG, if they find a pick though into the mid lane, that could be good for them. Doinby getting CC'd up. Oh, stops the ultimate, but here comes Rogue Warriors. Instant reaction from SMLZ and Flawless drops Zac into his Blobblets, and in comes the Rakan. He's going to be moving into the back line. Instantly goes down though. Ming will be his killer as Flawless backs behind the turret, flashes away, and somehow MLXG survives out of passive.
Yeah, biggest difference right here was that Ornn was not in the play and they did not find any damage onto Abel. He was able to hit onto Kahlua throughout the entirety of the fight, and nobody really touched him. So RNG do get a bit of momentum back. They force the charge away, which I actually think is the most important thing about the play. It stops the turnaround coming from Rogue Warriors if they want to go for Baron.
But Mouse on the bottom side. Flash out from Let Me. He knows that many people are right behind that Ornn looking to chase him down. So important flash coming out from him.
Look at the start of the play. This is very reminiscent to what RNG did at MSI, just catching on someone that was outside of his tower, just 2 pixels outside of his tower. It looks good for Rogue Warriors at the start, but Ming with a double knockup, and just watch Abel. Able to dish out all of the damage. Nobody really has the time to look at him.
Yeah, really, that was just, again, it was a situation where it comes down to execution. You know, like, many things could have gone differently there if Rogue Warriors had played maybe differently, because they managed to drop MLXG very early on to that fight, and it's like, well, he's just out of the equation. If they end up winning there, then they kill him, and then they get the advantage. You know, it turns around very quickly, so RNG managing to outplay them in that situation.
MLXG actually going in, but there's 4 members here.
Getting caught out by that flick back there from Flawless. Remember, he doesn't have a passive anymore, so he can't make these crazy plays like he was before.
All right, so I think this is MLXG's logic. He knows that the 2 big engage ultimates are down for Rogue Warriors, so he's willing to risk something like that. Did it turn out well? No. But does it make some sort of sense in MLXG's mind? Yes.
And will he do it again? Yes. In fact, he's setting up for it right now onto the mid lane. He's absolutely spotted on top of a ward, and Doinby was just beelining it towards him. But again, Rogue Warriors with the proactive, aggressive play, instant rotation to the mid lane, and everyone follows the call. They pick up the tower essentially for free. I mean, RNG was staring them down, but they weren't all in position to set up for it. Let Me down in the side lane without teleport.
Yeah, and RNG, they're finding themselves in a sticky situation. Rogue Warriors composition is just not something you can try to scale into side lanes for. They will instantly bunch up and take you out of the map. So I think what RNG really have to do is they're banking on Let Me quite heavily to keep Rogue Warriors composition from grouping up. The big play we're going to see from Rogue Warriors later on is basically the turn away from Baron. They're going to start it, they're going to force RNG to come check, and then they have all the engage tools in the world to just turn their backs and instantly go onto them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Rogue Warriors classic. You know, that's actually netted them so many wins, specifically in Summer. It's like they can be behind, they could be even, they could be ahead. It's the same play in the mid lane. So many times I see just an Aram just being straight up broken up by Rogue Warriors who are just going to launch themselves at their opponents. We can take a look at the full vision view right here. Only Doinby in view from RNG, just looking at him in the mid lane. Everything else completely blind. Same actually thing there from Rogue Warriors.
The good thing for RNG right there is they still have a trinket in the Baron pit, so this should give them enough time to really push past the river.
Rogue Warriors, though, with a lot of vision around Baron, specifically around the bottom side towards mid. Completely lit up. That's probably where they're setting up to try and find themselves a fight or a skirmish. Infernal Dragon's going to be up in 25 seconds, though. We actually have Rogue Warriors there first. RNG are protecting top side, so saying if you want to go for Dragon, we'll be able to quickly rotate towards the Baron itself.
Teleport's going to be finished from Mouse. I don't think RNG really has what it takes to start this Baron, but they will wrestle back control of the area.
For Kahlua, he's the first one forward, so RNG was already backing away. Let's think that bridge just for a half second. Dragon has now spawned. Both teleports are actually up from both top laners.
Yeah, really good timing from RNG to back out. They knew that Abel was just showing in the mid lane, so they really couldn't take a fight right there.
Here comes the charge, looking at Let Me. Instantaneous engage coming through, dodging out of the way, but still a knock-up of the charm onto Let Me, and the knockback as well. He's knocked into his blood well. The rest of RNG calling, we do not want this fight. We want damage control right now, but SMLZ is moving forward. MLXD over the wall, finds a big knock-up. They're going to drop Doinby, and now the rest of Rogue Warriors are angry. They're going to keep pushing forward. Knock-up doesn't land out from Mouse. He looks to back away, and meanwhile, SMLZ, oh, killer instinct, and Abel dives right into the backline. That was an LWX player if I've ever seen one. Triple kill to SMLZ.
And then he takes down the tank from Rogue Warriors, so I'm not sure that was worth it for Abel. I understand the logic was to prevent Rogue Warriors from actually doing the Baron, but ideally, probably the damage dealer would be the one that you really want to take out. You see right here, Rogue Warriors are still able to take away the Baron just with the 3-man and no tank.
Again, exceptionally well played in these clutch scenarios. Xiaohu stepping up to the Baron right now. 1 versus 3. All behind it. Takes down one. Looking towards the second. It will be smited down by Flawds, who flashes the wall. Roundwop looking to chase. He's on the close range towards Flawds. Not going to be able to take him down, however. That was almost clutch from the Summer Tiger.
Yeah, that was so close. He takes one, but doesn't get the crucial smite out of the equation, and Rogue Warriors are still going to be able to pick up the Baron. Now, this is what we really talk about Rogue Warriors. The turnaround is semi-global. It's so hard to get away, and Let Me was just 2 steps in front of River. He doesn't get to do anything this fight, but the equation still came out really close for Rogue Warriors. You could see SMLZ was hit with the initial stun coming out from Ming, but then he dodges out on everything from MLXG once more and is able to clean up the front line.
Speaking of Abel, right before he went for this kamikaze play, the flash over the wall away from the Ornn charge, clutch coming in from him.
Yeah.
If you put him in these pressure scenarios, he will perform, but maybe diving into the back and, killing himself, not the best, but you can see the amount of damage he put out in that fight compared to SMLZ as well. They were the major players.
I was definitely surprised that that fight was so close for RNG because they basically got Let Me for free. And RNG still was able to trade, I believe, 4 for 2 in that scenario and even have a really good chance, a possibility of taking that Baron play afterwards. But overall, Rogue Warriors to composition, if you give them all their tools, this is what they will do to you. And that's why Kled was banned for 14 games in a row in the summer split. Nobody wanted to give Doinby his Kled. And when it was given up to Doinby, he won all the games.
I mean, I expressed my surprise, early on in this champion select when they were not specifically banning out Doinby, because this is the strategy employed by pretty much every other team in the league. It's like, take away his Kled, take away his Aatrox, make him play something like a Ryze that isn't just a tank in the mid lane, and then we're good. Then he starts innovating around the mid split. He brings out Poppy mid lane, he brings out Renekton mid lane. It's like, well, apparently he'll just play anything. it still works. But right here, he gets cleared and he shows why it should be feared. Rogue Warrior is now on the aggressor with this Baron buff, take 2 towers. MLXG is charging up for Elastic Sling. Don't know if you want to go for this one, buddy. Rogue Warrior is just trying to sign up the paperwork, take everything apart from the inhibitors.
Yeah, SMLZ definitely has very good calculations. He's always keeping his ultimate in readiness for MLXG just flying in. So really, they just haven't been able to target down this Xayah, and fighting front to back against the Ornn with the Aatrox right now is not a winning strategy for RNG.
At the very least, the minion wave dissipates before it can crash into tower. 1 minute left on this Baron buff. We'll see if Rogue Warriors can take anything more than this. If they can crack open this line of defense here, it's essentially the final nail in the coffin here from RNG. They should be able to defend this though. Rogue Warriors are just rotating from lane to lane. And they can find anything, anyone out of position. SMLZ just takes that Void Seeker.
Still a very large damage gap coming in from Abel compared to SMLZ. Still looking forward towards that death cap.
Yep, it's gone for the full AP build right here. Goes for the Gwynsues first. Sometimes we see the Gwynsues and also the Storm Razors in tandem, so you can get that to Q and E evolve. And actually on top side, Latches on to join me. Nope, the other way around. Bear Trap finds Zach.
That was an okay attempt. Like, even if he didn't get him, like if they wouldn't lose anything, they could have full vision
Low risk
of Rogue
play,
Warriors.
yeah. And again, we look towards RNG, and maybe this could be a second game where they're forcing Uzi off of the bench. You know, he was having a great time in early game when they got that first blood, but I think it's more about keeping up that early game. You know, I saw that first blood and I was like, that's impressive. I want to see more from RNG, because that's how you keep Rogue Warriors down. We didn't really see anything else after that. When you have Uzi on the roster, he is a guy you can consistently play towards, and he will consistently play towards him. Like, that's the reason why we saw that 15-minute game the other day in playoffs come out of RNG, as they were like, all right, gloves are off. It's not kiddie time anymore. Let's go.
Do you want some quick stats for
I'm ready
Uzi in that TOP?
Quick Clement stats. Give it to me.
All right, so he was on average up 40 CS against Chocho versus TOP, and he was up 2,100 gold. So if you talk about the laning phase, he's definitely an improvement over Abel. In fact, the 2 times that RNG did lose to Rogue Warriors, both times they were playing Abel in the bot lane. So that matchup has historically favored SMLZ quite heavily.
I mean, if you look towards the 2 players as they are right now, SMLZ, yes, he's maybe been falling short in the laning phase, but you can say that's equivalent to perhaps Abel, right? And then if you're looking at team fights, then either neutral or you give it over to SMLZ, and then when you look at that equation, suddenly it's like, well, maybe it's Rogue Warriors favored. When we were looking at this matchup as a whole, stylistically, we were saying, all right, RNG, you've got it, but I think Uzi has to be part of the equation.
Yeah, it definitely should be. We could see the big difference he brings to the roster. Just the willingness for all of their members to pile into that bot lane, give him the lion's share of all the CS.
And then Rogue Warriors, their bottom lane becomes a weak point. You know, that's the difference right here, because you can actually exploit SMLZ and clear in the laning phase. Well, that never really happened. They got first blood, and they were like, okay, we'll take it. And then move towards mid-game. What's SMLZ doing right now? He's on 3.5 items. He's building also towards the Hex Drinker. He's massive. You know, this should never be allowed to happen if you're RNG into Rogue Warriors.
Yep, but Rogue Warriors they had an iron grip on the mid-game. They were able to stop RNG's 1-3-1. So like RNG's Aatrox is not doing much, even though he can split push against Mouse. The rotation would come in just way too fast for Rogue Warriors for him to really make anything out of that split pushing lane. So they're forced into a completely defensive position.
And RNG completely blinds in their own jungle. They're about to see 4 members of Rogue Warriors just come out of the woodworks, trying to contest this red buff. I'm not sure if this is the hill necessarily that RNG want to die on. They're going to back away from this play, clear out the control ward, but we talk so much on a micro scale about kill ranges, effective ranges, and this is just put onto the full scale here from Rogue Warriors. If you're RNG, you need to be looking at how you play into this composition, and you're right. The fact that Let Me would be able to do this against any other composition is true, but not against A, Rogue Warriors, and B, what they're running right here, because those semi-globals, they called him out, you said it, in the fight, he was essentially dead before he got to do anything. I think maybe just over 60 damage total in that last fight. 82, I'll give it to him, 82 damage. You want more from him. Doinby doesn't even kill Scar, he's going to be okay, he's going to back away. He's very tanky right now as well.
Nothing much happening. I really like what Rogue Warriors' ban pick strategy was. We basically take MLXG out of the early game equation. We know RNG and their tendencies. They're going to go for a 1-3-1. If we leave Aatrox open, they're going to pick Aatrox. But against our composition, split push actually doesn't work. Like, you can't split push fast enough to go up against the engage for Rogue Warriors. So there's a really smart drafting coming out from Stake. I like the composition overall. It's something they're familiar with, and it also hard counters what RNG is trying to do.
Now, there is one more shot in the chamber left for RNG, and that's going to be around this Baron buff. Last Dragon gets picked up by Rogue Warriors before the Elder, all rushing into the pit. Not going to be started just yet. They're actually looking for this bait. Now they've actually started it, yeah. Rogue Warriors, what's the response? Because they can collapse very quickly and come down on RNG like a ton of bricks. It starts. Here comes Kled from the top side, collapsing onto that backline. In comes Kalua, looking for the multi-man lockup. No casualties just yet, as the backline locked down by Let Me. He'll have to back away to the team. Ming stepping forwards, he'll drop. Everything bricks apart for RNG. The front line's down. Re-engage coming out from MXD. He goes face first into the meat grinder. 3 kills come out from Rogue Warriors.
And that was a heroic play from Let Me, but it couldn't correct the initial mistakes coming in from RNG. They absolutely needed MLX to land on someone and instantly take out the bot lane. With the abduction not working, Rogue Warriors' backline is just more fed than RNG. It becomes a front to back, and they definitely have the advantage in that scenario.
And frankly, Clement, that didn't even look close. Super carry Doinby right there with the flank into that team fight. Rogue Warriors, 3 kills. The last defense coming in here from Let Me and Zhao. It's not quite the Spartans. It's going to crumble. And Rogue Warriors, they're actually saying, we're okay with this push. Ming comes up in a second, 10 seconds. If we wanted to push even further, we could. But we can go for the high percent play right now. They're looking towards this Baron and looking to back away. Heck, they could even just fully reset.
Yeah, I really like this turnaround from Rogue Warriors as well, not doing the KT route, which almost cost them game 4.
It was hype, though.
It was hype, but it was one of those plays that you're very questionable. They see MLXG 10 seconds on his rebirth timer. They instantly turn around, go away. They know they can set up for Baron once more with the teleports.
I just don't see a scenario where RNG start off the Baron and it going well for them into a composition like this from Rogue Warriors.
They're trying to play around the ultimate cooldown windows, but if you look at the CD from Rogue Warriors, they're actually all up. They can just go for it again.
I mean, an instant engage could work out for them on the front line. Doinby having to charge away from this, but MLXG, he's already dead. Throws out the Infernal Chains, but it's just a bounce house here for Rogue Warriors. They pull everybody back into the fight. Zhao goes into his perfect timing, comes back out, and his entire team is dead. Mouse rushes forwards, critical HP, but it's a critical win from Rogue Warriors. Triple to SMLZ.
And Let Me tried his hardest, but he couldn't put a dent onto SMLZ. Really wasn't threatened throughout that entire fight. The abduction went onto Mouse. Not really the target you want. The Ornn in the middle, even when he misses his Ornn Horn, it doesn't matter. They're still able to clean up the big team fight. And this was not only a compositional win, this was a perfect counter to what RNG likes to do.
And Rogue Warriors, it was not even close in this game. They shut out RNG, and we'll take game 1.
And what a statement match for Rogue Warriors. RNG, I felt that they knew what was coming from Rogue Warriors. Rogue Warriors didn't have to change a thing from the victory over Kingzones in Rift Rivals. It was basically the same composition, the same idea, but it was a lot of takeaway from RNG as well. They took away the Ornn, they forced them strictly into the 1-3-1 where they couldn't compete on the front-to-back 5v5 team fighting, and they just ran the map.
Rogue Warriors saying, I demand to see Uzi. Bring the man forward. Get him off the bench. If you want to win this matchup, you're going to need to bring your full-on firepower. Maybe even bring Carter as well. Put Carter into the jungle, Uzi into the bottom lane, and bring your full A roster. Because right now, this is not enough.
Rogue Warriors coming out and saying, we demand respect. You cannot leave all of these picks open. Kled, like we were talking about, 100% win rate for this team. The Rakan was also a 100% win rate for Rogue Warriors. If you give them the tools, they're just too familiar with this strategy. On the other hand, RNG just trying to see how much they can go away with. I don't think RNG are going to be too sad about this loss, but it definitely shows them that you have to take things away from Rogue Warriors.
I mean, I'm still left scratching my head just a little bit because we're in semifinals right now. You said it at the very start of the set. If RNG win here, they're just confirmed worlds.
Yeah.
Like, if there's any series just to straight up take seriously from game 1, you want it to be this one. It's not to say that Abel, MLXG, trying to actively int on the Rift, but if you want to put your best foot forward, it definitely looks like Karsa. It definitely looks like Uzi in the bottom lane with Let Me in the top lane. That has so far just been the straight up strongest 5-man.
And that's something I worry about RNG because they're a team that is very momentum based. You can see in their interviews, in their own discussions, they don't want to fall behind in morale, and they're actually putting quite a big risk to really feel out Rogue Warriors. But if they're going for that strategy, I also feel like Rogue Warriors didn't show anything. No, they just went with their strategy.
We've seen this a million times before.
Yeah, like if you looked at our early game graphics, we pointed out all the picks that they would take, and it was just, just run-of-the-mill composition for Rogue Warriors. It's the normal day at the office.
If what you were trying to scout was just like, all right, we'll leave Kled open and see if Doinby still likes the pick. Yeah, he still likes the pick. He's going to instantly lock that one in. There's no way he's not going to pick it up.
And the big thing here for me is I feel like RNG are forced to bring in Karsa, because this ban strategy would not work against Karsa. Karsa would still have the Trundle pick, and he would still have the Kindred pick. So those are the big two things that I feel like MLXG has consistently lacked in terms of his champion pool. MLXG, he plays a couple of these things that are very unique to his own style, but he doesn't always follow the meta closely. And if they have Karsa, I don't think this strategy works. I don't think they could have such a strong control over the early game.
And that was it. That was the key word you just said right there, early game, with a key phrase, because there was an early game for Rogue Warriors. That should never really happen. The only thing that RNG really got in the early parts of the game was the first blood. After that, we didn't really see anything else. And while Rogue Warriors were searching, they were still going to win out come mid-game. So they were fine regardless. And we're just like, okay, well, if you pause out the game, we completely stall out from RNG, then great. This is what we want. Get to the 1-3-1. Shut out RNG. Shut out RW when you get towards the mid-game. Yeah, great. But that never really happened because we knew, again, like clockwork, the clock strikes 12 and they will engage on you. Yeah. This will happen, and you have to have a contingency in place. And there just wasn't one here from RNG.
And I think the second big question is, how do RNG wrestle back initiative from the map? They're very morale-based, very momentum-based, so they need to be the ones making the first moves in order to win. Against this Rogue Warrior composition, it's so hard to see themselves picking into something that can actually win. And if there's one person I would love to compliment in this game, it has to be SMLZ. MLXG was completely ineffective against him. He never got a stun onto SMLZ, and he was able to do front-to-back damage throughout the entirety of the team fights. I just don't want to see that man on Zac again.
Yeah, that being said, in that fight right there that we just saw, that was probably the closest fight that we saw in the entire game. Yeah. And that was still a play that should not have even remotely gone well for RNG. But again, they will go for these plays because it's like, well, we have the better players. Put this into the equation. Now suddenly a 50% play or a 30% play looks like a 50% or a 60%. And that was very close. That was essentially a 4 versus 5 coming in from RNG.
Yeah, if you looked at that team fight, I felt Ming and Abel definitely outperformed. Second time, RNG, they try to do a desperation Baron, but once again, the early catch from MLXG fails. They don't get to the back line, and even though Let Me gives a lot of time over towards Abel to try and deal with Doinby, it's just not possible at this point. He still has his GA up even after that fight. Like, he basically has, you have to go through the Sterix, you have to go through Scarl, and then you have to go through a Guardian's Angel, and they just didn't have that time to really trade front lines at that point. So just a better execution and better flank coming in from Rogue Warriors to start the fight.
Yeah, it was too far gone at that point. I would have liked to see another play come out from RNG other than just literally just yelling out like RW's name in the rain. It's like, oh, come get me. And it's like, yeah, all right. Like, just
we'll
engage with our semi-globals and just go right towards the Baron, lock themselves into the fight. So maybe there's another way around that. Maybe looking for the 1-3-1, maybe looking for an Aatrox to bully someone in the side lane, because the Aatrox was still very big, but didn't play around what was strong about their team and try to essentially play into the Rogue Warriors game. That's what it felt like in this one, that RNG weren't playing to their style, they were playing to the Rogue Warriors style.
Well, I actually think that RNG, this is kind of a typical draft for them. Like, you pick the Ryze, you pick the
Kaisa.
You pick the Kaisa. You have no early game plan, and you just sit on your laurels and just hope that something goes well for you in towards the late game. And this actually has been my biggest criticism for RNG. A lot of times when they go for these late game 1-3-1s, they just don't make anything happen into the early game. And we are having confirmation right now. Uzi will be coming in for game 2.
Okay, there you go. Uzi going to go down to the bottom lane, and that's important because he's facing down SMLZ, who will pick up our man of the match in this one, and he just had it too easy. Don't allow this guy to get out of the laning phase, get into team fights, and be full farms, because he will run away with the game. 158% damage to gold ratio, 40% of team's damage on the Xayah.
Yeah, and his teamfight awareness was absolutely amazing. He didn't leave the ultimate for the Ming combo, but he always had it up for MLXG. They never found anything onto him, never a catch back into their own composition. And that just kind of proves that even when Rakan is severely nerfed, you can still run the Rakan Xayah with an extremely good result.
Yeah, they first rotation that as well. I like the priority coming out from them, and it was just perfect. I actually love to see Rogue Warriors play from red side because it means you can get the counter pick coming out from Doimi, you can get priority for SMLZ, and it just feels good. I know that you were looking into win percentages globally across the board for different regions, but it seems a little bit ambiguous in a couple of regions actually, including ours.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big takeaways is that LCK is definitely more favored towards counter picks in red side. Well, NA, it's more about what composition you get, and they like blue side a lot more. For the LPL, we're about split even.
Yeah, it's about the same as Europe as well. So we've got you, European Bresno, your finals are still going on. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, though, we'll be here with game number 2.
登峰造极，方可声名远扬；侠盗勇士自在威震四方。